In the heart of the piney woods, where the trees whispered ancient secrets and the air was thick with the scent of pine and earth, there stood a solitary building, a public library that few in the neighboring towns even remembered existed. With its weathered wood and crooked sign, the library seemed to belong to another time, a relic of a long-forgotten past. The story begins with Hattie Graham, a young journalist with a penchant for unearthing the hidden stories of small-town America. She had heard about the library from an old man in a local diner, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of fear and reverence as he spoke of the place. He told her of the books that no one had ever checked out, and of the mysterious librarian, Miss Eliza Mayfield, who had been there since the library's inception. The strangest part, he said, was that the library seemed to change its contents depending on who walked through the door. Intrigued and driven by her love for the unexplained, Hattie decided to visit the library. As she approached the building, she felt an unsettling stillness in the air, as if the forest was holding its breath. The library's door creaked as she pushed it open, revealing an interior dimly lit by the soft glow of oil lamps. Dust motes danced in the air, and the smell of old paper and leather filled her senses. Behind the desk sat Miss Eliza Mayfield, an elderly woman with silver-gray hair neatly tied back, and piercing eyes that seemed to hold a lifetime of knowledge and mysteries. Her presence commanded the very walls of the library. Her expression was both welcoming and forbidding, as if she had seen and guarded secrets for many years. Eliza's voice was smooth and measured as she greeted Hattie. "Welcome, my dear. What knowledge do you seek?" Hattie explained that she was there to write a story about the library, but Miss Mayfield only smiled knowingly. "This place," she said, "is not just a library. It is a keeper of stories, stories that the world is not yet ready to hear." She gestured towards the shelves lined with books, some ancient and others that seemed eerily modern. "These books are not merely for reading. They are doorways." As Hattie wandered through the aisles, she felt a strange pull towards a particular book. Its cover was blank, and it emitted a faint warmth when she touched it. Miss Mayfield appeared at her side, her eyes narrowing. "That book," she said softly, "chooses its reader carefully. Once you open it, there is no turning back." Unable to resist, Hattie opened the book. Instantly, she was transported into a world not of this earth, a place where the boundaries of time and space were blurred. She found herself standing in a clearing in the woods, but the trees were taller, their trunks twisted and gnarled in unnatural ways. The air was thick with a strange mist that seemed to whisper secrets in a language she couldn't understand. In the center of the clearing stood a man, standing a few feet from her. As he approached her, Hattie gasped. It was the old man from the diner, but younger, and his eyes were filled with a wild, desperate knowledge. "You've come," he said, his voice trembling. "The library. It binds us all. We are its guardians, and now so are you." Hattie soon realized that she was not the first to be drawn into the library's mysteries. Each book was a portal to another reality, each containing a piece of a puzzle that had been scattered across time and space. The library was not just a place of knowledge. It was a prison, a trap for those who sought too much, who dared to look beyond the veil of the ordinary. Miss Mayfield, as it turned out, was not just the librarian, but the first to be ensnared by the library's power. She had been there for centuries, watching over the collection, ensuring that no one would ever uncover the whole truth. But now, with Hattie's arrival, the balance had been disturbed. The library was awakening, its secrets pushing against the boundaries that had held them for so long. The story culminates in a tense confrontation between Hattie and Miss Mayfield, during which Hattie learns that the library's power is not just in the books, but in the stories they tell, the stories that can reshape reality itself. As Hattie delved deeper into the mysteries of the library, she became increasingly aware that Miss Mayfield was not merely a guardian but a gatekeeper, someone who had carefully controlled the flow of knowledge and power within the library's walls for centuries. Her growing determination to uncover the truth led her to a hidden room in the back of the library, where Miss Mayfield had warned her never to enter. The room was small, almost claustrophobic, with walls lined with ancient tomes bound in dark leather. In the center of the room stood a table, and on it lay an open book, its pages blank except for a single line written in a language Hattie couldn't read. The air in the room was thick with a strange energy, and as Hattie approached the book, she felt it pulsing with a life of its own. Suddenly, the door behind her slammed shut, and Hattie turned to see Miss Mayfield standing in the doorway, her eyes blazing with a mix of anger and fear. "You shouldn't have come here," she said, her voice trembling. "This room, this book, they are the heart of the library's power. It's not the knowledge in these books that matters, but the stories they hold. Stories that can bend reality, change the past, reshape the future." Hattie stood her ground, her curiosity now mixed with defiance. "Why keep this hidden? Why not let the world know?" she demanded. Miss Mayfield's expression softened for a moment, revealing a deep sadness. "Because the world is not ready for such power. Stories are not just words on a page. They are living things, capable of creation and destruction. Once I thought as you did, that these stories could be shared, that they could bring enlightenment. But I was wrong." She stepped closer, her voice growing more intense. "The stories in these books are not bound by the rules of our world. They are fragments of other realities, other times. To read them is to invite chaos, to risk unraveling the very fabric of existence." Hattie felt a chill run down her spine. But she couldn't back down now. "And what about the people who are trapped here? The ones who came before me? The man in the clearing? Was that you?" Miss Mayfield's eyes flickered with deep pain, and she nodded slowly. "I was once like you, eager to uncover the library's secrets. But I didn't understand the cost. I became a prisoner, bound to this place by the stories I sought to control. And now, I am its keeper, ensuring that no one else makes the same mistake." Hattie looked down at the open book, feeling its pull once again. "But the library chose me," she whispered. "It brought me here for a reason. Maybe it's time for the stories to be told." Miss Mayfield's face hardened. She yells, "You don't understand. If you unleash these stories, they will consume you. They will twist reality to fit their narrative, and you will be lost within them, just as I was." But Hattie was resolute. Maybe the world needs these stories. Maybe it's time to face the unknown, to embrace the chaos. In that moment, the tension between them reached its peak. Miss Mayfield raised her hand, and the books on the shelves began to tremble, their pages fluttering as if caught in an invisible wind. The room seemed to shift around them, the very walls pulsing with the energy of the stories they contained. But Hattie, now understanding the true nature of the library, reached out and touched the open book on the table. Instantly, a surge of power flowed through her, connecting her to the countless stories within the library. She could feel them, all the lives, the worlds, the possibilities. And she realized that Miss Mayfield was right. The stories were alive and hungry for a new reality to shape. With a cry, Hattie channeled the energy back into the book, forcing it to close with a resounding thud. The room fell silent, the books settling back onto their shelves, and the oppressive energy dissipated. Hattie was left standing alone, her hand still resting on the book's cover, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Miss Mayfield stepped back, her face a mask of relief and sorrow. "You have a choice now," she said quietly. "You can leave, and this will all be forgotten. Or you can stay and take my place as the guardian of these stories." Hattie looked at the book in her hand, understanding the weight of the decision before her. "I won't let them consume me," she said, her voice firm. "But I also won't let them remain hidden. There has to be a way to tell these stories without losing control." Miss Mayfield nodded slowly, a faint smile on her lips. "Perhaps there is. Perhaps you are the one who can find that balance. But it won't be easy, and it won't be without sacrifice." In the end, Hattie chose to stay, to guard the library and its stories, but also to find a way to share them with the world, without letting them reshape reality itself. As Hattie accepts her new role, and Miss Mayfield fades into the shadows, the room begins to darken. Just as the library settles into an eerie calm, Hattie notices a book on the highest shelf slowly opening on its own. It's a book she's never seen before, and as the pages flutter, a voice whispers her name. Suddenly, a figure, a ghostly, shadowed version of Miss Mayfield appears in the distance, with an unsettling smile. "You thought you were the only one," the voice says. Hattie, now fully realizing the depth of the library's secrets, understands that she may not be the only keeper after all. The true power of the library is far greater than she imagined. "What knowledge do you now seek?"